What's your feeling about this? What's the reasons behind Merkel and Macron's latest push now for EU unity?
Well, there might be several reasons. I think the most important one is that they would like to take advantage of Brexit in order to maybe assert their leadership in Europe. With the Brits, it was never possible to go far on this, but now they would like to seize the opportunity. But by doing this, they might irritate other small and medium countries such as Italy, Spain and Poland, who might not be so much interested in seeing a French-German leadership in Western Europe. Also, you have to consider that we have European elections in next May, and this parliament, this new European Parliament, will probably be much more Eurosceptic than the present one. So I guess that the French and Germans, Macron and Merkel, who are both domestically weak, would perhaps like to have some kind of integrationist legacy.
Well, it's very interesting and a little bit surprising. I think previously and historically, Macron's not really favoured a European Union army, but obviously he's now looks as though he's changed his mind, perhaps because of what's happened with the Brexit strategy moving forward now, and without the UK being in the European Union moving forward. How beneficial is it then that France and Germany come together in cooperation for the European Union? What the political and economic benefits? We certainly need a strong European Union moving forward. It's gone through a bit of a malaise for the last few years for obvious reasons.
Well, I think that we are all glad in Western Europe, certainly, and I think all over the world, when we see a good cooperation and good relationship between France and Germany. But the picture is, again, a little bit more complex than this, between the French and the Germans trying to establish themselves as the European leaders now, means that they are constituting what we call a directoire, a non-elected leadership, which might try also to substitute itself to the institutions of the European Union, such as the rotating EU presidency or the High Representative, who is also a vice commissioner of the Commission and who should be in charge of the foreign relations of the European Union. So there's a clear competition between this French and German leadership and the European institutions. And also we have a disintegration, in a way, of foreign policy in Western Europe. The French and the German are discussing many times and with many partners kind of in name of the European Union, also with Russia, for instance, on Ukraine. But the reality is that these countries, France and Germany, are talking or are speaking more and more only on behalf of themselves, and then they lack often the support of everybody else in the European Union. For instance, on Russia, Western European nations tend to try to have a better relationship with Russia. As far as Eastern European nations are concerned, they are more tough, maybe. And the French and German try to represent a sort of compromise which does not rally everybody behind them.
Now, you've mentioned a few of the countries that would be opposed to that: Italy, Spain, Poland. We've also got the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, who's hit back at Macron's proposal, saying it goes way too far. Why have we got so much indifference? We've also got the island Prime Minister, who's been on record to say that he wouldn't support something like this. So on the face of it, there's quite a lot of opposition to a European Union army. I mean, there's a whole host of potential challenges when you think about the difference in cultures from sort of North European countries to Southern European countries. Is it going to really work? That's one of the main sort of cruxes against it. Will other EU states support this idea, the ones that we haven't mentioned? And if they are going to support it, why will they support it?
Well, I suppose the Dutch point of view, I think, is a very reasonable one. And for a very simple reason, because the idea of the European army is not standing by itself, it's not standing alone, but it comes together with another German and French proposal. They would like to establish a European Union Security Council. And in this Security Council, basically dominated by France and Germany, of course, decisions would not be taken unanimously on foreign policy anymore. For the time being, decisions have to be taken unanimously. That would be now different with the European Union Security Council, where voting should take place by qualified majority. Officially, they say that this would allow for a faster decision-taking process. But in reality, that would mean that smaller and medium-sized European nations would have to contribute in one way or another to a European Union army without having a say what really happens with this. And that is a big danger, and that is seen by many countries in Western Europe. So basically, they don't want to contribute to such an army without having a say on how it's going to be used later.
Just a final question. Obviously, how is this going to affect the NATO and the EU-US cooperation? You've had quite a few issues recently with regard to President Trump and his insistence that countries in the European Union have to participate and pay their way in terms of the budget. If the likes of Germany are not paying towards the NATO contribution, how is the EU going to be able to actually fund this? I mean, that's the biggest question surrounding this, surely.
Well, there's probably a hidden agenda also on this. I mean, if you look at France, for instance, they have an interest in putting the weight of their nuclear deterrence also on the shoulders of everybody else in the European Union, because they say our nuclear deterrent probably is benefiting everybody else. And through new rules, a burden sharing within the European Union, it might be also beneficial for France. And the Germans might get in return some say in the UN Security Council, for instance. But of course, this puts additional strain on NATO. The Americans, and rightfully so, would not like to see a duplication of efforts with all what they are financing in NATO. So we are not at the end of this discussion, rather at the beginning. The Americans as a superpower would not like to see emerging rivals, even though they are friendly to the United States, such as Western Europe. But it's not in their interest. And on the other side, smaller and medium European nations, again, have no interest in financing directly or indirectly the French nuclear deterrent without having a say in what is going to happen. So I think in summary, this initiative causes a lot of difficulties to Western Europe, a lot of strain in the relations between the countries, and all this comes now in addition to the other problems that we have in Western Europe.